You had mentioned that a contract must have certain things. What are those things that no matter what, you must not be caught with your contract not have them? Or don't put them in, rather just leave them floating so that you don't get caught. Like a bonus, like you say. If it's in the contract, it must just happen. For example, cost of living increases. When do I write it in the contract? What happens when I don't have money to pay the cost of living increases? So what are the things that typically must tick off? Maybe the top 10 things you must have in your contract.
The first thing is, as part of a compliance matter, the Basic Conditions of Employment Act specifies that you must have written particulars of employment. And the written particulars of employment are specified the areas that you need to contain. So typically it would be the position that the person occupies. It would be the salary that and the remuneration that will be paid to the employee. Other areas would be the address detail of the employee, and all angles of your terms and conditions of employment. Those would include your annual leave benefits. What typically are the annual leave allocations? It would include things like sick leave. What are the sick leave benefits? Albeit that they are governed by Section 22 of the Basic Conditions of Employment Act, you would be required to spell those out in terms of how practically and contractually you want sick leave to be dealt with. The other areas that you could include also would be typically retirement age of an employee within your organization. There's no legislated retirement age within organizations and within companies, so it would probably be good to specify that. Another thing that you might want to do, particularly where you are operating within a very aggressively competitive industry, is you may even want to have, and I know it's a contentious point, but I believe in their value, and I've had them tested, and they do work, is a very, very clearly and specifically worded restraint of trade. So you might want to specify that certain levels of employees or certain types of positions within your organization, again, that's up to you in terms of your the business owner to decide and to make a call on. So that would also be something that you would want to do. You'd certainly want to also have the employee sign their agreement and their consent to those written particulars of employment, and you would certainly want to specify the start date of that contract, and also the type of contract, whether it's an indefinite contract or whether it's a contract of fixed term, as an example. So those are some of the things that I can think of immediately that would be vitally important. But if there is any doubt, the small business owner is welcome to check the Basic Conditions of Employment Act and to search on written particulars of employment, and it will specify what are the absolutes in terms of what they need to contain. The interesting part, Hetty, is that it doesn't specify at which point the written particulars of employment need to be specified. From my experience, I would say that specify them prior to the date of employment. In other words, so that when the employee starts, on the date that they start, there can be no misunderstanding about what it is that you're expecting of the employee contractually. Because if you do it after 3 years of employment, there's much history that can build up and much left to interpretation. So although it's not specified at which point you need to have this contract of employment from the Basic Conditions of Employment Act, I would say do it prior to the date of employment, and upon, very soon after your interview with that particular employee. The other thing, just by the way, that I think you probably would want to specify as well is whether you have a probation period, whether there's any probation period, and there's a lot of value to probationary periods as well. So I think those are some of the things that should be specified.